So, if you watched my first video about disturbing scenes in kids' movies, you probably thought I was done traumatizing your childhood memories. Well, think again, because apparently there are way more of these scenes than I expected. So here we are, back with part 2 of the most disturbing scenes in kids' movies. Before we begin, I just want to thank everyone who commented and dropped recommendations on part 1. I love you guys. Now, on to the video. Let's start with a classic that has haunted generations of kids. And I'm talking about that infamous boat tunnel scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, this movie is supposed to be a whimsical children's fantasy, right? It's got candy, chocolate rivers, and singing Oompa Loompas. What could possibly go wrong? Well, apparently everything can go wrong when you decide to take a boat ride through hell itself. The scene starts off calm. Everyone's having a great time floating down the chocolate river and admiring the candy decorations. The music is upbeat. The colours are bright. It's everything you'd expect from a kid's movie. But then everything shifts. As soon as the boat enters the tunnel, it gets darker. The lighting becomes more aggressive. And suddenly, we're not in a candy wonderland anymore. We're in what feels like a fever dream. Then the visuals hit you hard. We're talking flashing psychedelic lights, screaming colours, and imagery that honestly feels like someone slipped LSD into the chocolate fountain. The editing becomes rapid fire, disorienting, and genuinely unsettling. You've got images of centipedes crawling over faces, abstract shapes that seem to pulse with evil energy. And yes, a headless chicken. You heard that right. They actually included real footage of a chicken being beheaded in this sequence. In a children's movie about candy, they thought it was appropriate to show actual animal slaughter. The filmmakers literally included real footage of a chicken's head being severed, and somehow this made it into the final cut of a G-rated family film. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's absolutely insane when you consider this was 1971 and back when movie ratings were still finding their footing. But the real horror comes from Gene Wilder's performance as Wonka during this scene. He shifts from a quirky candy maker to a genuinely unhinged madman, reciting creepy poetry while staring into the distance like he's channeling something demonic. The poem itself is deeply unsettling.
There's no earthly way of knowing he's singing which direction we are going.
The way he delivers those lines makes him seem less like a tour guide and more like a serial killer. Wilder's acting choices here are both brilliant and terrifying. He becomes completely still, almost blank, while chaos erupts around him. You start to wonder if this is the real Wonka, if the cheerful candy maker was just a mask, and this is the terrifying truth hiding underneath. The psychological impact of this scene is profound because it's not what you expect at all. Kids go into this movie expecting pure fantasy, and instead they get hit with sensory overload, violent imagery, and the terrifying realization that their fun candy man might actually be a psychopath. It's wild, it's intense, and it plays on that deep fear of the unknown that all kids feel. What makes it even more disturbing is how it mirrors real childhood anxieties. Kids often worry that trusted adults might suddenly reveal themselves to be dangerous, and this scene captures that fear in a very real way. The safe space of the candy factory becomes a nightmare tunnel, and the kind man in charge suddenly feels scary and mean. Now let's talk about Return to Oz, which is basically what happens when someone decides that The Wizard of Oz wasn't dark enough. This movie took everything bright and cheerful about the original and said, you know what, let's make this a nightmare instead. The context here is crucial. This film was Disney's attempt to return to L. Frank Baum's original Oz books, which were considerably darker than the 1939 MGM musical. But even knowing that, nothing prepares you for the sheer horror of the Wheelers. The Wheelers are probably the most genuinely terrifying creatures I've ever seen in a children's movie. Dorothy returns to Oz, expecting to find her colourful friends and magical adventures, but instead she finds a wasteland populated by these things. Picture this: humanoid creatures with wheels for hands and feet, elongated limbs that move with this jerky, insect-like motion, and absolutely horrifying helmets with creepy faces that give them an uncanny, puppet-like appearance. They're not quite human, but they're human enough to trigger that uncanny valley response that makes your skin crawl. The design work here is genuinely inspired in its horror. The Wheelers' bodies are unnaturally stretched, giving them this spider-like quality as they skitter across the landscape. Their wheels aren't just attached to their limbs. They seem to be part of their body, suggesting some kind of horrific body modification. The faces on their helmets are clearly not meant to be cheerful, turning them into death masks. The sound design is what really gets me though. You've got this metallic clattering as they wheel around, combined with the high-pitched laughs. It honestly sounds like something from a horror movie. The way those sounds echo across the empty land makes it feel like they're all around you and hunting you. But what makes it even worse is their behavior, which really pushes this over the edge. These creatures don't just chase Dorothy, they actually threaten her. They literally tell her they're going to tear her into pieces and throw her into the deadly desert. For a kids' movie, that's straight up nightmare fuel. The specific nature of their threats, talking about ripping her apart and the references to the deadly desert, shows how creepy and messed up they really are. What's particularly effective is how they move as a pack. They don't just attack individually, they work together, surrounding Dorothy and blocking her way out. They seem smart, like real predators, not just random monsters. They're playing with her, enjoying her fear, which adds a psychological dimension to the terror. This part of the movie also stands out because it flips what we expect from an Oz story. In the original film, Dorothy meets colourful characters who become her friends and helpers. But here, the first inhabitants she encounters actively want to hurt her. It's a big twist that makes both Dorothy and the audience feel lost and vulnerable. What makes the Wheelers so effective as horror creatures is that they tap into multiple primal fears all at once. There's the fear of being chased, that creepy feeling when something looks almost human, but not quite. And the fear that something that should be friendly is actually dangerous. On top of that, add in their unpredictable aggression and the fact that they've got Dorothy completely surrounded in this barren wasteland, and you've got a recipe for childhood trauma. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this movie. It's a brilliant, one-of-a-kind blend of animation and live action that still holds up today. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit is one of those films that tries to be both a kids' movie and a film noir, which should have been a red flag from the start. The movie exists in this strange space where cartoon logic meets real-world consequences, and nowhere is that more apparent than in Judge Doom's death scene. The setup is crucial to understanding why this moment hits so hard. Throughout the film, we see classic cartoon logic. Toons get flattened, stretched, blown up, and they're always fine. Early on, it's clear that Toons can't really die. They survive anything because they don't follow the same rules as real people. This makes the audience feel safe, like nothing bad can truly happen. The movie maintains a cartoonish tone throughout most of its runtime. Even in the big final scene, it still feels fun and light. Roger is cracking jokes, the other Toons are acting goofy, and even though the stakes are high, it all seems like everything will be okay because, well, it's a cartoon. But then Judge Doom gets crushed by a steamroller, and suddenly everything changes. First, there's the scream. It's deeply unsettling, nothing like what you'd expect to hear in a cartoon. It sounds like real pain, real fear. Then his body gets flattened like a sheet of paper, and that's when we find out Judge Doom was actually a Toon the whole time. He suddenly rises and inflates himself like some kind of twisted, evil balloon. The visual of his flattened body alone is disturbing. But then comes the real horror. His true form starts to emerge. You see his human facade peel away, revealing a cartoonish figure with glowing red eyes. The transformation is gradual and grotesque, like watching someone shed their skin to expose the monster beneath. And then he delivers the line that traumatized an entire generation.
When I killed your brother, I talked! Yes!
The way Christopher Lloyd delivers that line, with those bugged out eyes, the high-pitched voice, and that maniacal expression, is pure nightmare fuel. The revelation that he's been the villain all along, that he's the one who killed Eddie's brother, transforms him from a corrupt judge into something genuinely evil. But it's not just the voice change, it's the complete transformation of his physicality. The way he moves becomes weird and jerky, almost robotic. He's no longer bound by human limitations, and that freedom makes him even more terrifying. And when he gets melted by the dip they don't cut away, we actually see him melt while screaming in pain. His body turns into yellow goo. The scene feels like it goes on forever, and his screams grow more and more disturbing as his form dissolves. What makes this scene especially effective is how it introduces the concept of true death into a cartoon universe. Up until this point, the worst that could happen to a toon was getting squashed flat and then bouncing back. But Judge Doom's death proves that toons can actually die, and in the most horrifying, painful way imaginable. This scene works because it completely rewrites the rules. The movie had taught us about cartoon physics and mortality. It's masterful filmmaking, disguised as a family adventure, and it does so by breaking its own world in the most disturbing way possible. Chicken Run might look like a harmless claymation comedy from the creators of Wallace and Gromit. It has cute characters, British humour, and a prison escape plot that seems fun for the whole family. But then this scene comes along, and suddenly we're dealing with themes of mortality and systematic murder that wouldn't feel out of place in a Holocaust film. The brilliance of this scene lies in its restraint and how it makes us use our imagination. The filmmakers understand that sometimes what you don't see is more powerful than what you do, and they use that principle to devastating effect. The scene is masterfully constructed to build dread. Mrs. Tweedy coldly checks the hen's egg production records and discovers that one of the chickens, Edwina, hasn't been laying eggs as she's supposed to. What makes it disturbing is how emotionless she is. She's not angry or sad. She just gives a small, evil smile, and you immediately know something bad is about to happen. Then she orders Mr. Tweedy to take Edwina away. The other chickens know what's happening, but they're powerless to stop it. You can see the fear in their eyes the way they watch helplessly as Edwina is taken away. It's a perfect metaphor for how systematic oppression works. Everyone knows what's happening, but no one can do anything about it. What makes this scene so effective is what it doesn't show. The camera follows as Mr. Tweedy hands Edwina over to Mrs. Tweedy, who then leads her behind the shed into a room. Inside, we see an axe and a chopping block, and by that point, you know exactly what's about to happen. Then it cuts to a wall, just shadows. You see the shape of an axe being raised, followed by the sound of a chop. The execution is off-screen, but the implication is brutally clear. The sound design here is crucial. The axe hitting the chopping block is sharp, final, and uncomfortably real. It's just the sound of metal hitting wood, and by extension, the sound of a life ending. The silence that follows is broken only by the quiet, horrified reactions of the other chickens. This is the moment when kids watching realize that death is permanent and final. The other chickens don't react with slapstick humor or cartoonish exaggeration. They react with genuine grief and terror. Ginger's and the other chickens' faces show real sadness and fear. It's a serious and dark moment that completely changes the stakes of the story. The scene also works because it shows how systematic the threat is. This isn't a one-time tragedy, it's a routine. The casual way Mrs. Tweedy handles the situation makes it clear that she's done this many times before and she'll do it again. Every chicken on the farm is living under a death sentence, and their only crime is failing to produce enough eggs. For Ginger, Edwina's death becomes a wake-up call. This isn't just about escaping the farm anymore, it's about survival. If they don't get out, they're next. The movie shifts from a light-hearted adventure to a genuine life-or-death thriller, and it does so through one powerful implied moment. It's a surprisingly mature theme for a children's movie, handled with a seriousness that respects the audience's intelligence. Now let's talk about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's supposed to be a quirky, light-hearted road trip comedy. It features Pee-wee Herman's signature, childlike humor, colorful characters, and a simple plot about finding a stolen bicycle. So why does it contain one of the most effective jump scares in movie history? The answer lies in how cleverly the scene builds tension and surprises the audience. The setup is perfect. Pee-wee gets picked up on a foggy night by a trucker named Large Marge. From the beginning, something feels off. Her voice is monotone, almost emotionless. She stares straight ahead while driving and never makes eye contact with Pee-wee. In real life, this would feel creepy, but in a comedy, it just seems like another odd character. Then Large Marge starts telling her story, and the tone shifts completely. She describes a truck accident in chilling detail: twisted metal, burning wreckage, and a driver's body pulled from the wreck. Her delivery is flat and emotionless, but somehow deeply unsettling, like she's describing something she actually witnessed. It feels more like a spooky campfire tale than a casual conversation, and that makes it even more disturbing. On this very night, she says, and suddenly you realize this isn't just a story. It's a confession. The fog outside the truck mirrors the fog in her story, and the dark highway stretches ahead, just like the night she's describing. As she nears the end of the story, the tension builds, and when she turns toward Pee-wee,
Like this.
oh my God, I can't even explain how that moment nearly gave me a heart attack. It was way too much for me as a 7-year-old. Her face suddenly transforms into a claymation-style horror mask. Her eyes bulge, her jaw stretches wide, her tongue sticks out. It's exaggerated stop-motion horror that feels like it came from a completely different movie. The transformation is shocking, totally unexpected, and genuinely scary. What makes it so effective is how it breaks the visual style of the movie. Up until this point, everything looked real, with normal characters in real settings. Then suddenly, you're hit with this bizarre, unreal image, and that's what makes it so disturbing. Technically, the scene is flawless. The shift from live action to stop motion is seamless, and the creepy design of her face is shocking without being too graphic. It's cartoony enough not to be gory, but still real enough to be scary. But the real brilliance comes after the scare. Pee-wee makes it to a local diner and casually says that Large Marge gave him a ride. The whole place goes silent. Everyone looks horrified. One man finally tells him that Large Marge died 10 years ago in the worst truck crash he'd ever seen. They even show him a memorial plaque with her picture, and it's the same woman who picked him up. So not only did we get a jump scare, we also got a ghost story twist. The story she told wasn't just creepy, it was her own story. That crash she described, it was the one that killed her. And ever since, she's been driving that same road, picking up strangers and telling her tale. This scene works on multiple levels. It's a perfect jump scare that completely catches you off guard. It's a ghost story with a tragic twist. What makes it especially powerful is how it takes a familiar idea, a helpful stranger, and turns it into something creepy. Large Marge isn't evil, she's just a ghost trying to tell her story. But the way she does it is so strange and unexpected that it becomes terrifying. Finally, let's talk about Watership Down. If you've seen this movie, or even just heard about it, you probably know it's one of those films that can completely mislead you. At first, it looks like a normal story about rabbits living in the countryside. The way it was marketed even made it look like a family movie. But in reality, it's a dark and brutal story about violence, death, and survival. The film is based on Richard Adams' novel, which was never intended specifically for children, despite featuring animal characters. Adams drew on his experiences as a World War II veteran to create a story about the harsh realities of survival, and the film adaptation doesn't shy away from those themes. Although the movie is filled with many disturbing scenes, the snare trap scene is particularly effective because it's one of the first truly shocking moments in the film. It catches you off guard and makes it clear that this isn't your typical cute animated story. It also brutally ends the illusion of safety the rabbits had found in Cowslip's warren. After escaping Sandalford, the group settles into what seems like a peaceful, welcoming new home, almost too good to be true. Fiver, however, senses that something is deeply wrong and warns the others, but not everyone believes him. Bigwig, tired of Fiver's paranoia, storms out of the warren. Determined to prove there's nothing to be afraid of, that's when it happens. Bigwig steps into a snare, an almost invisible wire hidden in the grass. It tightens instantly around his neck, and the peaceful mood shatters. Bigwig thrashes violently, choking and gasping as the wire digs into his throat. He convulses and collapses, blood appearing on his fur. The sound design is particularly brutal. You can hear Bigwig choking and gasping for air as the wire tightens. His movements become weaker and more panicked as he starts to run out of oxygen. As the struggle continues, Hazel asks Fiver to call the other rabbits for help. What makes this scene so powerful is the emotional reality of the other rabbits' reactions. They don't just stand there, they actively try to help. They dig frantically, working together to loosen the wooden peg anchoring the snare. You can see the desperation in their movements. The way they're trying everything they can to save their friend. The animation in the scene is impressive because it feels so real. Bigwig's struggle looks truly painful. His movements get shaky and clumsy as he grows weaker. And you can see real fear in his eyes. The rescue adds even more tension. As the other rabbits try to save Bigwig, you can see him getting weaker. His movements slow down and he starts to breathe heavily. There's a real sense that they might not make it in time, that this beloved character might actually die in front of us. When they finally manage to free him, there's a terrifying moment where it seems Bigwig is dead, but then he stirs, alive, but shaken. It's a turning point not just for the group, but for the tone of the story. The message is clear. This world is dangerous, and survival is never guaranteed. The scene hits hard because it feels so real, and because it goes against what we expect from animated movies. We're used to cartoon animals getting hurt and bouncing right back, but Bigwig's pain feels serious and lasting. It forces the audience to face the harsh truth about how tough survival really is in nature. The broader impact of this scene changes how we watch the rest of the film. It shows that death is possible, that the characters we care about can be seriously hurt or killed. It creates a sense of genuine stakes that makes every coming danger feel more threatening. So there you have it, 6 more scenes that show how movies have a weird obsession with traumatizing kids. But what's fascinating about these scenes is how they become more effective over time, not less. As adults, we can appreciate the creativity behind them, the way they use atmosphere, pacing, and surprising twists that really make them disturbing. Let me know in the comments, did I miss any scenes that traumatized you as a kid? Maybe we'll need a part 3. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.